There may be a stream to go delete though.
No.
Yeah, for it to take effect, I had to reset it. Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right over there is John, your resident Millennial. John, how are you doing tonight?
Fantastic as always, I suppose.
All right, so as far as I know, everything should be coming online. I don't understand it. See,
It looks like it.
did it come up?
Yeah,
Yeah,
looks
see,
like we're good.
something was up with Restream. Something was throwing a curveball in the old Restream.
Fucking
So anyway, John,
restream.
how's your week been going? Doing good? Getting back to normal work schedule and all?
Yeah, it's actually been really good because I got my brand new chair. It's fucking awesome.
Nobody,
Put it together
nobody,
all by myself.
nobody saw anything. All we saw was you pointing
Uh,
at your bed.
well,
And who calls a bed a chair?
right there. See?
Yeah. You shouldn't do that because now we're like, well, we would rather see the chair.
Chair stream.
Hey, good to see you out there, Jake from Freedom Scoop. Seawall in the house, and we may have a special surprise for folks tonight. Hey,
Oh,
John,
yeah.
before we get too deep into this, no, I did not get a haircut, Jake from Freedom Scoop. I just washed it. Uh, John, we got anything going on in the near future? Any love, any happiness? Nope, nothing? Good. All right. So,
I'm sorry. Did you actually want me to answer that?
no, because I know the answer. Hey, folks, if you haven't already, hit the like button,
You don't know that.
hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, do all those things to let you know that we're here and we're ready to fill you with all our BS. Hey, before we
Right.
get too deep into our show topics tonight, because we only got a couple, and but of course they're going to take up a little bit of time talking about them.
Hopefully.
I wanted to throw something out, and I saw this over at Stephen Ignoramus's Discord. If you folks haven't signed up for our Discord, you should. And if you haven't been on Stephen Ignoramus's show and or Discord, you should, because he's pretty cool and he's our friend, and he hangs with us out at Freedom Scoop. And wow, look at that! We got Henry
Oh,
in
we
the
got a
house.
Henry. Haven't seen
Is
him in a
that the
while.
Henry I know?
Yes, that's
It
a Henry that
is.
you know and love.
Uh, uh, there was an article that that someone had posted in one of his chats, and I just thought this was so funny slash interesting. But I'm gonna pull it up, and you tell me what you think, John. So scientists are constantly doing things, right? They're constantly telling
Usually.
us blah blah blah. We know all this, we know all that, right? But oh, did I do that? Did I do that? So I saw this article, and what this scientist has come up with, and there it is. He has come up with a plan. It says wants to move the sun and our solar system to save Earth from killer asteroids.
Hell
Now you
yeah.
heard that right. Move the sun and our solar system to avoid an asteroid. Let's not do this whole let's just shoot a nuke into it and blow it up and make everybody
Too
safe.
simple.
Too simple. So
Yeah.
what it is this scientist has been cooking up an idea for, and he's supposed to be a top scientist, one of these top cosmologists.
Top
It's
men.
yeah, it's called a stellar engine. And basically what he says is this stellar engine could be used to shift Earth trillions of miles if we were threatened by an asteroid. His name is Dr. Matthew Kaplan, and this is a an engine, and basically uh, what it does, it doesn't actually move the planets. It doesn't do any of that. What it's geared towards is shifting the position of the sun and thereby dragging Earth and everything else that is in a gravitational pull around the sun with it. So if you move the sun, you move everything else, is basically the idea. It's a giant space station that's going to draw matter from the sun and then use that to power it like a thruster, like a rocket thruster. He says once the matter has entered the engine, it is quickly fired out the back via a nuclear fusion reaction. Then the second thruster that fires the particles back at the sun, basically it creates a push-pull effect like a tugboat, and then creates a tugboat effect. So this engine is going to move through space, dragging the sun with it. And of course, if the sun moves, we're all going to go with it. And he basically says that we can use this to just, like if we wanted to like travel backwards through the galaxy, like off our beaten path, reverse our path, and kind of scoot back through the galaxy, or we could even leave our galaxy and on our way through space, as we're passing by other stars and stuff, we'll stop and we'll go and colonize a planet and just drop some humans off, and it keep moving and just keep going and populating the entire all of space, the universe.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
John, thoughts?
I think it's a little excessive. I think there are much simpler solutions. Um, such as a couple that we have here in the chat.
Which are?
Um, well, Seawall was saying, or even simpler, launch your rocket years in advance and attach your solar sail to the asteroid to redirect it. So I mean, there's that one, and you could just explode it as well. It'd be prettier too if you just exploded it. Um, but also, you're reading that, and I mentioned this to you off mic, but people laughed at people like Galileo and
Sure.
Copernicus, and all these people who were ahead of their time, and
Mhm.
they turned out to be correct and not an idiot.
Well,
So
yeah, but
I think you're just one of these people who are just short-sighted and feeble-minded.
well,
That big brain like me.
it's like Seawall points out, and it's in the article. We don't even have anything that would make this possible. Like we don't even have the materials that could withstand the sheer amount of heat. A billion degrees Celsius, I think, is something like that. 1 billion C, whatever that means. Um,
Hmm.
no, no, we don't even have that stuff. So that's even that. I mean, I understand being far sighted in these things, but that's like that. That's just. But the sad thing is he could probably go to Trump and get the money for it. Um,
Oh my god.
no,
Someone
no.
has to.
It'll be a
But I
part
mean,
of
someone has
Space
to come up
Force.
with the idea. Hang on, someone has to come up with the ideas for them to manifest themselves. It's not like we wait until we have the materials and like, oh, okay, now we can try and figure this out. I mean, there's a way that you get to the materials or to the resources
Sure, sure,
to
sure.
be able
Yeah.
to do that sort of thing.
Right. We now that we know that we need the materials, we'll create them.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Basically, the only downside to it is it's not very fast. So it would take us approximately um, a, a million years to go 50 light years.
That's it.
Yeah. And how do they know they're not going to drive us right into the path of another asteroid? You
Well, they're
know?
going to control it, obviously.
Right. So anyway, I thought that was funny. So, but speaking of whack jobs, uh,
Seawall. Oh wait.
no, no, that yeah. I do want to. I thought I would take a moment and just give an impeachment update. Two things happened today that of note to me. One, Nancy Pelosi came out and said that the expectation is that the articles of impeachment are going to be brought to the Senate floor next week. So there's that. But at the same time, also today, President Trump came out and said that if they say they are going to allow John Bolton to testify in the impeachment trial, he is going to use executive action to prevent him from testifying in that.
Hmm.
So I like that part of it. I'm kind of curious about your take on that. What's your thoughts on the president using that kind of order to stop someone from testifying against him?
Yeah, I don't think he would actually do that. I mean, how many things does he say that like off the cuff that never happens? So I don't know. I think he's just shit talking there.
Well, apparently he put a few people in place to figure this out, make sure that it's possible that he can do it.
Right.
Kind of like he
It's
did when
probably
he said he wanted to pardon himself. Yeah.
right. But I mean, he probably won't be able to do it. I can't imagine that can be a legal thing.
Yeah, I can't imagine that you could do that conceivably, but Yeah, I don't know. I would think that that would get some sort of kickback from somewhere. Um, but wow, why did my chat stop working? Are we still online?
I think so.
It's
Chad,
funny.
are we still online?
Well,
Yeah, yeah, it looks like we are.
my live chat isn't updating, but all of the restream chats coming in up here.
Oh
So I was just
shit,
gonna.
it's Michael Vega in the chat.
Michael Vega's in the
I
chat.
thought you were going to a movie, man. I thought we were, missing you tonight, dickhead.
Maybe he felt bad because I called him out on it for being a
Maybe,
blasphemer.
right?
Um,
Heresy will not be born.
yeah. See, Jake is one of those flat universers, which I think is kind of interesting because you know.
You believe in a round universe? Fucking
No,
pleb.
I've always thought it was a square.
It's obviously a rhombus.
Is it?
Obviously.
Is it?
Yep.
Well, it looks like I'm going to be relying on the restream chat tonight. So, it is what it is. All right. So, that
And
being.
Henry, the Earth is not flat. It's actually a dodecahedron. So
Oh, that's too many sides.
get your shit right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something for everyone. It's flat and round, but mostly flat and mostly round.
But anyway, so when it's all said and done, I just have to put it out there that I think it's really fucking wrong that he would even, if he does attempt something like that, I think that's really fucked up. That you would be able to determine through the power of your office who will and won't testify against you. I find that really fucked up. It's crazy. Almost as fucked up as like the whole impeachment trial been going on. The craziness with it, but I mean, come on. Like I said earlier, two shams don't make a pillow, right, bro?
Oh god.
Hey.
Yeah.
All right, so John, I'm gonna put it in your less than capable hands. I think we when we get ready to talk about this next segment, why don't we pull in a guest? I believe we have somebody ready that could come in. Am I correct? We have
Quite.
we have somebody with a little bit of I don't know. We'll call it knowledge. You want to call it knowledge? Let's do that. Let's call it knowledge.
We'll call it whatever he wants, I guess. But yeah, I'm just waiting for the confirmation, and then I'll
Yeah,
pull him
go ahead
in.
and drag him in, and we'll start talking about this whole whatever the name of that country is that we talk about so much.
Yeah, God.
I'll give everybody a lovely picturesque view while we're doing that. Enjoy the view. Can anybody
Oh,
tell
what's the
me?
view?
Can anybody tell me what that picture is? Who it is? Anybody?
All right, pulling him in right now. As soon as I find his name. Where's his name?
I
Oh
like what
shit.
Jake says. He says, if the people elected the president and the president gets impeached, can the people pardon the president?"
Bruh. Are we not friends on Discord? It's blasphemy.
Never mind.
No,
I'll
I know
pull
we
him
are
in.
because
I
I've
can
pulled
pull
him
him
in
in. I'll
before.
pull him in
You
then,
pull him in, but like, what the fuck?
because I like him enough to have him on my friends list.
Yeah, well, he was wrong about swords earlier today, so you know, don't know if I want to be friends with someone like that.
Yeah. He did what now? What
He
horrible
was
thing
wrong about swords.
was he?
Yeah, I just can't abide by that.
Did I send him? I know I sent him an invite. Oh, come on now.
He said, "Hey, I'm right here." Uh,
Let's see. There we go. Look at that. Now it's doing something.
The arming sword is the superior sword, and all of us
there we
know it.
go. The arming sword, oh my god, is not the superior sword.
Which
That is a
sword?
ridiculous. No, that's a ridiculous statement. It's an accessible sword. It's an easy sword to use, but it is not the superior sword.
Folks, let's welcome Seawall to the show tonight. Seawall, how are you doing? The most
Howdy,
appropriate,
folks.
one of the most appropriate people I can imagine to talk about the wonderful, wonderful situation we've got going on in what's the name of that country, John?
You ran.
Iran. Iran. Yes,
You ran.
I didn't run.
Yes.
These colors never
Oh.
run. Ha! Ha! I got to make that joke. But Seawall, welcome to the show tonight. Glad to have you here. I would like to make the assumption that you, as well as myself, I'm not going to include John in this because he's a slacker. But I would guess that you might be the type of person that's been keeping up with this whole Iran thing a little bit. Am I correct?
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on it, mainly going through guys like Tim Pool. I picked up Short Fat Otaku's positions on it. I also watched Sargon's interview with someone who's anti-Trump, but also he's used to live in Iran, and he's a former Muslim. And he's got some very good contacts on the ground. He kind of went over the goods and the bads. Because I'll freely say, Trump, it's been a mixed bag with Trump and Iran right now. Good on the strike, bad on the whole targeting cultural centers thing.
Well, now, in his defense, the way that read was misconstrued. It honestly was. It was misconstrued, and it was turned into a big hoorah over something he didn't quite put the way they twisted it. Yeah. So, in his defense, he was just saying, important targets, some of which are culturally important. But, I mean, as we talked about on the previous show, somebody mentioned the White House here is considered culturally important, but it's also militaristically important as well, right?
Exactly. There's the presidential bunker, which basically is, a massive coordination center. So let's say for whatever reason we were under direct threat, someone invading, president's ass is either going to be in an aircraft flying above the U.S. or he's going to be in the bunker underneath the White House.
Now, real quick, is the bunker that they have for him in NORAD only in the event of a nuclear strike?
NORAD is not actually a primary backup place for the president. The NORAD at Cheyenne Mountain, from what I understand, has been mostly shut down. It still operates, but it isn't the primary NORAD headquarters anymore. It's just one of the fallover sites.
They're mainly just tracking Santa every year.
Gotcha.
That's pretty much what they do anymore.
Also, you've got to run the Stargate program out of somewhere.
Yeah.
And as a side question, is not Air Force One of the stupidest places to be in a situation?
Not at all.
Actually, the thing is, what we've been able to find out about Air Force One, it's likely utilizes some stealth technology to make it very hard to detect in radar. Mm-hmm. It is constantly being guarded. If it's in danger, it's being guarded by squadrons of aircraft.
Gotcha.
All of them have orders of, look, if shit's incoming, you're taking the hit if the plane can't get away on its own.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and Air Force One also has countermeasures,
right,
and
of course.
Basically like flare, the common stuff like flare launchers,
chaff, right? Yeah,
chaff, flare launchers,
chaff, yeah.
But we don't even know the other shit hidden in there.
Jake from Freedom Scoop says NORAD has been shut down according to the government, but I'm like, wait a minute.
No, NORAD still exists. Yeah. It's just Cheyenne Mountain is the headquarters anymore.
I was just going to say, I got good Santa tracking from them this past year, so was that a lie?
Yeah.
Well,
I know, right?
The government lying to you? My God!
Never.
I am shocked.
They do NORAD. They do Santa tracking out. They do Santa tracking out of the same studio they did the moon landing in.
Yeah. Stanley Kubrick directs it too. Same as the moon landing.
It's actually kind of funny. The technology needed to fake the moon landing didn't exist at the time they did the moon landing.
Nice.
That's what the government says.
Sure, right. But they've got all the hootin' footin' technology, right?
That's right.
All right. So the first question I have about Iran is a news article that came out today, and this one struck a minor chord with me. Apparently, the same day that we took out Soleimani in Iraq, there was also a second assassination attempt carried out by our U.S. government in Yemen. We were targeting another Iranian in Yemen at the same time, but that one was not successful. So now the depth and the efficacy of the information, it came from CNN, but it is reporting what appear to be facts, conversations that have been had from sources. What say the two of you on the idea that, okay, we were going after Soleimani because he's a bad guy, but apparently at the same time we were carrying out another assassination attempt on someone else from Iran. Is this bad on the face of this? no matter how good we think it is to have done
Well,
the original.
here's the
story.
thing: CNN in the article says this guy was a financier and associated with the Cud Force. He
Sure.
was a bankroller for it. He was the banker of this, basically. So again, the Cud Force basically got its hand caught in the cookie jar with that little militia attack against our embassy. And what's the old saying? If they put one of your guys in the hospital, you put one of theirs in the morgue.
Yeah.
And we tried to put two of their guys in the morgue. One of them got lucky and got away. The other one, well, he got snack barred.
Yeah.
Now is so from the perspective of the American public, okay? So let's look at it from the eyes of people who are going, okay, well, we see Soleimani as an assassination attempt, and now it may be coming to light that you were actually trying to assassinate multiple people. You know, from the American viewpoint, does that not sound damning to the case that they made about why they were taking Soleimani out and kept that quiet?
No, not really. I think at the end of the day, there's enough bad shit that is known about Soleimani among the American people that he literally was head of the Cud Force, which we know is a terrorist group effectively at this point. What it does is terrorism throughout the Middle East. And the thing is, the other guy being targeted was the banker of that. It's
Right.
not that hard for people to go, well, they were trying to take out the head of the organization. They took out the head of the organization. They're trying to take out the money man. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, is the way that was explained to the American people, the way it was presented, and that being changed along the way to a certain extent, was that the wrong approach? Should they not have been more transparent in exactly what we were doing with Soleimani? Not
Legally
this.
speaking, it was the only approach because the thing is, a lot of the information surrounding this is very sensitive. It's classified, it's secret, it's top secret, it's sensitive, compartmentalized. So they released what they could as they got a hold of it and were authorized to release it. It's a flaw of the system as a whole. There's no way around it, short of completely rewriting our classification laws. Yes, the president has blanket authority to unclassify things, but if you start using that power willy-nilly, God knows what's going to happen.
What about the provision that to carry out this strike under the guise of imminent attacks being planned, that information that was gathered is supposed to be produced to others in Washington to show the efficacy of the attack, but none has been produced showing those imminent attacks?
It's one of those things that's probably being worked on. I wouldn't be surprised if
Well,
there are multiple congressmen currently in skiff rooms getting briefed
Yeah,
and being told, look, you can't say anything, and they're going to go, oh, I didn't hear anything, because they're
Yeah.
trying to make it look bad for the president.
right. But they're supposed to do this within a 48-hour window of the attack.
And how do we know that hasn't happened?
Well,
Have the
because
congressmen released their itineraries?
well, that
Have they released their itinerary,
what I was saying.
showing that they were in a classified briefing?
Okay.
Or are they saying we're not releasing it?
No, they have not produced anything that shows any of the evidence that they gathered showing an imminent attack, is what I'm saying. And they're technically, according to the provision, supposed to produce that within 48 hours. It just hasn't been done, so I'm just a little curious, especially since the talking point
Well, how do
slipped
you know
away.
it hasn't been done? We're dealing with classified information.
Because sources in the way I saw it, I
Sources.
have to go find the article.
Sources.
Right.
Sources.
No,
Source.
okay, hold on. One of those sources was a named person in fucking Washington that said nothing has been delivered. The talking point changed from imminent attack to he's been a bad guy in the past.
And, it's
And
also
we all
turned
know the
back to
talking
there were
point.
four-
Sure, they've
and
been
it's
flip-flopping
turned-
back and
it's-
forth.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to the world of cloak and dagger.
But why
Also,
hasn't...
heads up, there's a thunderstorm in the area, so you might lose me.
But if evidence is supposed to be produced and people in Washington are saying none has been, I'm just saying it's a little disconcerting when you're not following the process. You know, it kind of goes back to the impeachment thing. It's like you can't just change the process to suit your needs. I don't agree with that. But anyway, so whether it was I agree with taking the guy out. I don't have an issue with that. I just don't like the wordplay and the way that they try and politic us because they think we're sheeple.
Well, look, remember, the same people that are saying Trump shouldn't pull out of Syria are now saying he shouldn't have done the attack against Soleimani. At this point, I don't believe a word those people say anymore. I don't believe a word of the left that's anti-Trump because they have flip-flopped far more than Trump has. They literally do the direct opposite of what he does. If Trump recently came out saying, hey, I like trying to keep the environment clean. Next week, they're going to be demanding us burning tires in the streets because of that.
Well, I can
We're
agree.
dealing with terminal levels of Trump derangement syndrome here with politicians in Washington.
Well, I
guarantee
can agree with that to a
multiple
certain
people
extent.
were read in. It's just they're keeping their mouths shut because they know politically, if they deny they were ever informed, and there's no way to verify it because the meeting itself was classified, that they can try to make it look bad for Trump.
Well,
It's an easy way to explain why supposedly no one's been told.
well,
We're dealing with cloak and dagger here, man.
Hold on. We're not talking about whether or not they knew it before it happened. I'm just talking specifically about the evidence that was supposed
No, I'm
to
talking
be
about now.
produced. Right.
That
If
I
evidence
wouldn't be
is supposed
surprised
to
if
be,
it was, and they're just claiming they never saw anything.
why would they do that? Why would they lie?
To make Trump look bad.
Okay, so then tell me this. Why wouldn't Republicans be coming out and saying, no, we produced the evidence, here it is? We know we produced the evidence, and you're lying saying that we haven't. Republicans would do that. So if evidence had been produced, we would know it. That's all I'm saying. Because even if the left lied about it, the right would not stand for that. You know this.
Yeah, true.
But sanctions, those are going in place. Now those are,
And I'm fine with those. I'm glad we're basically economically strangling that nation, leading to more protests and eventually the Iranian Ayatollah probably falling.
possibly. It's a good chance. Now
The number one cause of the protest currently is economic. Actually, a lot of the young people there can't find work. And what was the old saying? Any nation 3 missed meals away from open rebellion.
Jake says perhaps the evidence is classified, and I understand that, Jake. I get that the evidence may be classified, but you can still say classified evidence was produced. I mean, you don't have to tell us what the evidence was. Just tell us it was produced. But the sanctions that are going into place, a lot of it is targeting industry over there, which is gonna fuck with the population, like you were talking about, and hopefully cause some situations. But according to bullshit talk from the leadership over there, the money that they're sanctioning on the 8 individuals is not going to hamper their plans to move forward with their nuclear project, nor their, as they've said, they're going to continue missile strikes against American targets until we leave the Middle East.
And if they miss and they hit a bunch of American civilians, I guarantee you there's going to be a cruise missile going right up Tehran's ass.
I don't think we have any more civilians over there, do we? They've been since the
Contractors
strike.
are everywhere.
But they've been
Contractors are everywhere, man.
Okay, so anyway, so when the strike happened, they put out an alert for non-essential citizenry to get the hell out of there.
And
basically,
you do know that contractors can be designated as essential, right?
Well, what kind of contractors are you talking about? Are you talking about military contractors that have fighting men over there? Well, that's different.
No,
I thought you were talking about
No, I am talking. There are individuals within the military that are considered necessary that are contractors. They provide certain services to the military that is required because the military doesn't do everything for itself anymore. They outsourced a lot of shit. So I guarantee you, even though the numbers have reduced, there are contractors still operating out there. Everything from analysts to IT technicians to guys that deal with weaponry and repairs. They all exist. Truck drivers.
So in a potential wartime situation, we leave citizenry, regular civilians in the mix. Are we? I mean, why?
We used to not have civilians in these roles, but we since changed that. And there is such a thing as hazard pay, and there are agreements that they sign saying, "Les, I understand, I am at risk."
Gotcha.
It's not
Well-
look, it's not like we're just you get hired as a contractor to drive a truck and suddenly you're in a red zone. No, it's would you like to do this job with hazard pay
Really?
as well? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, let's
Well,
look at what Henry is saying in the chat there, which I believe is actually Chicken Nugs, and not the Henry that
You thought it was? Yeah.
we both thought it was. Yeah, different Henry. But
But he's saying they got a lot of the contractors out of there. So
Yeah, there's still a handful left, I guarantee it. They're not going to get rid of everyone because there are certain essential contractors that it's going to take time to replace them with a military person.
we got Cameron in the chat too. What's up, bruh?
So we're hoping that these sanctions that are going to go into place, we're targeting 8 high-profile individuals over there, cutting off their financial sources, and then, of course, we're going to hit their industry and production. Is that going to be enough? Like, how long, or I guess I should say, if you were to guess, how long would it take that kind of situation to have the impact that we're talking about to really make a change in Iran?
Look, the Iranian government is already gunning down its own civilians. That is generally the death nail of a society.
But haven't they
Can
been
I
doing
give
that
you
for years?
Not at this level,
Oh.
not this openly.
Okay.
Previously, it was accidental, or a squad fucked up orders, or they got scared and opened fire. No, this was they were ordered open fire into the crowd. We were talking basically military firing squad formation kind of shit. And it's only going to get worse. Sure, there's going to be a temporary lull because the Ayatollah is using Trump's targeting cultural impacts to get the nationalists. Because I can't remember the guy's name, but he spoke with Sargon a couple days back. He basically said there are 2 major factions within Iran. There's the religious faction that's always going to back the Ayatollah. No matter what you do, there's the Shia faction that'll always back him. The other one are the Persian nationalists and the Iranian nationalists. They hate the Ayatollah. The only reason they backed him was because they liked this general. So for a time, they will back the Ayatollah, but until the Ayatollah gets the Ayatollah has to basically find someone who is Soleimani to replace Soleimani. If he can't, and he replaces him with someone that's too religious, he's going to lose the nationalist support, and it's going to lead to them becoming another massive discontent part of society.
You know, I want to say I saw something today that was talking about there's a new guy stepped into Soleimani's shoes. I'm not, but it was just a brief thing, and I passed by it. So we'll have to look into that. But I think they've already got somebody trying to step into his shoes, who is, of course, part of this rhetoric going on about clearing the U.S., clearing Americans out of the Middle East. So when we're talking about Iran, though, we have to talk about Iraq, because Iraq has basically asked us to leave, and we're
kind of.
Well,
It's actually you have to look into it. Technically, they only barely had enough members of parliament in there to even vote on anything, and all of the Sunni and Kurdish parliament members, who outnumbered the Shia members by far, protested the vote and did not vote. So that non-binding resolution, if you dig into it, you find out that actually it's not the will of the Iraqi people on average.
right,
It's only the pro-Iranian part, which is a minority.
right, but they got the votes. That's the part that's going to carry it, right?
Yeah. And the thing is non-binding, and technically speaking, the prime minister cannot ask us to leave because he needs his cabinet, which he doesn't have one, to do it. That's how the agreement works. The cabinet has to pull it. The cabinet doesn't exist, and the prime minister has been prevented from forming a cabinet. They literally did a make Iran happy vote. That's all this is.
Okay, so
And the second we actually start talking about removing boots from the ground, I've got a feeling the Iraqi parliament's going to reverse that decision in a binding resolution asking the Americans to stay longer. The second actual movement happens.
So, from the standpoint that we are willing to ignore that, like as it stands right now.
Look, I'm not saying it's hard. I'm saying we should follow it. We should be moving the troops out, and even if they beg, we still pull them. I'm done dealing with the shit.
I understand that, but what does it say if they're asking us to leave and we say no, we're not going to leave? Does that change who we are in Iraq?
Yeah, if the right message is sent out, it could be seen. They could convert the Americans from invited guests to trespassers, maybe even occupiers. But it depends on how aggressive the American troops have been with the locals.
Now, Henry says there's a lot of corruption in the Iraqi government caused by Iran, and I can understand that. So, in line with what you just said a moment ago, isn't it just our best bet to just fucking leave and let these two play all they want and then fight each other out and do all that shit on their own?
Yep. I'm completely fine with us leaving, and then I will not shed a tear when the Iranians start genociding the Sunnis, because God damn it, you guys were stupid enough to not let us know there was a problem.
What about should there be any concern for the fact that, as far as when you talk about our allies over there, a lot of our allies are looking at this as a bad move. Like, they're disparaging Trump for having killed Soleimani in the first place and creating this heightened level of tension. So, Iran
was constantly poking at us. They were constantly causing problems.
I know that. I get it.
They attacked our embassy. They are lucky we didn't shut.
Right? They've got $1 billion worth of our weapons.
Problem is,
all right. So when it's all said and done, I don't truly believe that Iran, Iraq, or any of those countries, even Saudi Arabia, factor into this as much as Israel. Is it not for us, the way, based off our past, is it not imperative to us that Israel call the ball on this, that Israel
troops in and deal with Iran, or leave us the fuck out?
I mean, if
everything category. But when it comes to Middle Eastern politics, the Israelis' desires seem to get a very high priority on our priority scale. And it's disproportionate, and it shouldn't be that. Look, even people say, oh, it was a war for oil. We really didn't get that oil. We just stabilized the markets. Right. That's all we did with it.
Right.
And now we don't really need it, because how much drilling have we been doing recently?
Well, and Trump even made that assertion during his address the other day. He said we have the ability to be at 100% independent when it comes to these natural resources. So if we can say that, why? What is preventing us from acting on it?
Because there would actually be an increased cost and an economic slowdown for a time due to worry of instability, worrying about the American companies' abilities to extract it at the rates needed, as well as worry about transport from within the U.S. Is our infrastructure good enough to maintain the levels we need? Are the roads capable of supporting that many oil trucks? Are the oil pipelines able to do that much throughput? Or are they getting close to capacity as it is?
Well, from what I understand in the past, having read, our reserves are there. The Alaska pipeline does amazing things for oil production. It's great. But I think the biggest impediment are climate change people. I mean, this is what
fanatics.
Let's call them the fanatics, because there's a spectrum there, right? But that keep us from doing the one thing that would stop all of this bullshit in the Middle East. I mean, and that's what why are we letting that happen to where we can't be independent? Because if we could go independent, we could go isolationist, and we'd have oil to sell.
Well, not only that, but I'm a big proponent of nuclear. And what we can do is, instead of shutting down the coal mines, why don't we invest in coal liquefaction and refining technologies to produce more oil using the existing industries? Why can't we do this, people? You know how much money we would make? We would bankrupt the rest of the world.
Well, let me ask you this: how dirty is liquefaction?
There's not a lot of knowledge on it because it hasn't been tested that much. It could be quite dirty, or it could be relatively clean with the refining process with any of the bad stuff either being very limited in numbers, or it could be refined into something else that's useful. We don't know because we haven't tested the technology that much. I'm just saying it's a possibility.
Right. Now, Henry said Israel was carrying out stealth attacks on PMF. PMF. Why does that sound familiar? Who's PMF? They were carrying
Is
out
that Palestinian
Palestinian. I think it is
military forces? I don't know.
possibly.
That's my guess.
He said that those were stealth attacks were going on, but I mean, Israel and Palestine. That's just kind of like an ongoing sibling battle,
Look,
right?
it's going to end in one of two ways. Either, to be honest, my prediction for Israel-Palestine: either the world abandons Israel, and basically there's just a jihad unlike anything we've ever seen, where just constantly Middle East sends wave after wave after wave until Israel runs out of bullets.
I was wrong. It's Popular Mobilization Forces.
I don't even know what
That
that
doesn't make any sense.
I
I
don't
think
know
you
who
might be
those
fucking
are.
with us.
Or they try that, Israel slaps them back and just gobbles up the rest of Palestine, kicking out the Palestinians and saying, "This is ours now, right of conquest, bitch, go away," and just scattering those people to the winds.
Yeah, diplomacy will never let that happen. God.
Diplomacy's for the weak.
You know, it's funny. You know, when I think about Israel and Palestine, and I think about Christians and Muslims over there, and all of this that goes on. I was watching something. I was binge watching something, and they made an interesting comment. And they said it's amazing how long these two groups have been fighting each other when they share nearly identical ideologies. Like they
Not as much as you might think.
Well,
Actually, there are massive fundamental differences.
Well, I understand there's differences,
at
but
its base is actually about improving oneself, whereas Islam is about submitting to the faith.
yeah, but
There is a huge difference in those two things.
yeah, bullshit.
Fundamentally, Christianity
is about submitting to the fucking faith. Trust me. From
yes, there are
Catholic
fundamentalist groups. There are fundamentalist groups, but if you look at the seven deadly sins in Christianity versus Islam, Christian ones are about personal failings. Islam is about not being faithful enough.
Sure. But the ideas behind, like, you know, when you talk to Muslims, we believe in Jesus Christ. We believe he existed, blah, blah, blah. We believe in the same things you do. We just do it from a different angle. You know, and this is, I just pointed out because I think it's kind of a little bit of irony, you know. Do what?
That's some fancy tequila you got there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's, you know, I think that the real issue is not Iran. It's not Iraq. It's not even Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I think we've got to deal with Israel. We've got to. I don't know. Find a level of maturity where we can actually just say, you know what, Israel. You know, mad props to you. Do your thing, but we got to walk away, and we can't let our culture and our politics revolve around this, right? I mean, just the whole anti-Semitic idea in this country is rooted in Israeli propaganda, like deep in the heart of the Middle East. You know, it roots all the way back to that, and that's insane to me. You know, it's like you're American Jews. You're not Israeli Jews. So
but a lot of them do have dual citizenship or can.
Well, I'm not saying but we've got enough
well, yeah,
generations.
That's the point of Israel, though, right?
We've probably got enough Jewish people in this country that never even seen Israel in their lifetime. I mean, multiple generations of Jews.
But under Israeli law, because they can trace their ancestry back to Ashkenazi Jews or other groups, they can basically, with a phone call and some paperwork, become an Israeli citizen at effectively a moment's notice.
Just by being Jewish?
Israel's. Just by being Jews.
Yes.
Yep. Just by being able to trace. Israel is an ethno-state. It is an ethno-state.
It is. In fact, every Jewish person I've ever known has gone there at least once, if not also having dual citizenship.
Yeah, Israel's an ethno-state. You know what? You know what I say to that? They have a right to. It's their nation.
Yeah. They're. But we don't need to be fucking involved with it, right?
Right.
No, we could be trade partners and friends.
Yeah,
but that's about it.
Is there any realistic reason that that truly prevents us from disengaging with Israel? Is there something legitimate that would, like, I don't know, break the country, or you know what I mean?
There are a few economic concerns that I would say. One, Israel does produce quite a few medications that we do utilize in the U.S. They're one of the few places we can import from. There's also advanced weapons technology being developed there that can be useful, that if fallen into the wrong hands could put us at significant risk. As well as there is the whole, they're one of the few groups out there that we know we can rely on. If Russia starts getting uppity and starts invading, we can use them as a jumping off point to secure economic importance like the Suez Canal from Russian or other nations taking it.
Now, it's fun. I find it a little bit funny that you say that, because ultimately that country that we can count on, or that can count on us, it ultimately falls to the administration that's currently in power here too, right? I mean, just because Trump makes nice with Israel doesn't mean the next president or presidents in the past have been in love with our relationship with Israel and kept it on this at the same level.
Here's the thing. Even if they don't make nice with Israel in private, in public, they have to in private. They've got to kiss that. They've got to kiss that ring, as it were. Because you know what happens if a president actively goes against Israel? They get marked as an anti-Semite and lose a massive chunk of the votes in the U.S. They lose the entire evangelical votes, effectively. Jewish votes gone.
Please tell me it doesn't all come down to campaigning. God damn it! I don't.
It always does. It always comes back to campaigning.
Yeah.
It always comes back to staying in power, man.
Yeah. Why do you think that there is? Why do you think that the media doesn't defend Ilhan Omar that much anymore? She has not made nice in private with Israel. She's probably losing her seat because of it too.
Yeah.
But the irony is, it wouldn't be a bad thing to not make nice with Israel, in my opinion.
No, I'm completely fine with the president telling the fucking French, get out of my country, you cheese-eating surrender monkeys, and kick them out.
Technically,
that is so racist.
The French have the most, the most battles, I think, won in history.
Yeah, that was before. What was it? Are they in the Fourth or the Fifth Republic now? I can't remember.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, if we're talking about
how many of those battles were against other French?
Hey, listen, we're not, we're not sitting here splitting hairs. Right?
Yeah, come on. The current French situation, the current French are just a prequel for what, we're in that phase. We're doing prequels now.
Yeah,
the prequels to the prequels.
Right. Oh my god.
Yeah, so ultimately, it comes down to racism in a sense. Is racism the right word to use with Jewish people? Partially.
We actually have determined that they are of their own distinct ethnic group. They are loosely related to Europeans, but we have been able to confirm they're Ashkenazi Jews. We were able to trace them back to the original inhabitants of Israel. So actually they do have a historic claim to the region. Palestinians, their claim is extremely weak because they're basically a combination of outcasts from Libya and Saudi Arabia. They don't have much of a claim to the region.
Were those countries named the same back then?
Not back then. I'm talking about...
Well, okay, the reason I asked
that would have been Judea, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have been Judea.
Yeah.
We have been able to tie, King David and his people to the modern Jews. We have been able to do it. Whereas we cannot tie the historical people in that region to the Palestinians. Maybe a little bit here and there, but the majority of their ancestry, we've been able to trace it back, is mainly from the Libyan coasts, as well as mixed in from outcasts from Saudi Arabia.
Well, most of all of the conflict between Israel and Palestine is based around holy ground and who has a right to that holy ground. Couldn't that?
Well, it's also changed hands a bunch of times.
Right, but so like who has
Israel it? Israel has it. Basically, if you actually look at the history of Islam, whenever it goes to a new area, it then creates a new story about Muhammad saying that was always a Muslim area. So Islam actually has very little religious claim to a lot of regions, mainly Saudi Arabia, and that's about it.
Wow. See,
Everywhere else,
Yeah.
everywhere else. For example, when they were talking about they're claiming Jerusalem's a Muslim city, it never was. They twisted an existing story about there was a third city Muhammad was referencing. He never named it. Years later, after they kicked down the doors of Jerusalem and claimed it, they then said, "Oh, Jerusalem was the city he was talking about."
Yeah.
They have always used their religious scriptures to justify conquest
yeah.
and claim it as liberation.
Well, that's kind of the same idea that like the Israelis will sit and talk about how the Israelites went through the desert with Moses or something to that, right? Like they refer to back then those people were still Israelites, but Israel didn't exist at that time.
Mainly the Phoenicians, but they died out.
Right. So
they died out.
Nobody in the
Yeah.
present day really has claim to that land because it wasn't part of any of your countries because your countries didn't exist. So fucking sort it out. It just winds up being whoever's got the biggest guns.
The best we can tell based on the number of dead and the tombs, we've been able to tell the vast majority of them are related to the modern Jews. So that's the best we've got. The Phoenicians, we can't find a modern group that isn't so what's the term? Diluted by other groups that they have a claim to it. Whereas the Israelis, we can do a direct tie.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
so I'm just going to put this out there. According to their book, everybody's books, we're all the same people anyway. I mean, we've all got the same mom and dad in the very beginning, right? It's all Adam and Eve.
Well, no, I mean they all got
You're
wiped
assuming
out.
you're assuming it's a literal story.
They not only that, but they all got wiped out by the flood.
I'm not. I'm
So-
assuming that those people who preach it think it's a literal story. Yet
Oh, yeah, and I
their
don't like
literal
it. Yeah.
story.
Yeah, because you know what else is funny is immediately after they get kicked out, and they start their own little family. There's mention of like a bunch of different tribes, like around the way or something like that. You know, there's other tribes around.
Yeah.
Where did they come from?
Because somebody actually thought, and they were like, "Wait, this really sounds a lot like incest. How do we fix
Right.
this?"
That means that we're all a bunch of retard babies. Yeah.
Yeah,
Retard
and look,
incest babies.
also it's one of those things that
Hey,
I
Wyatt,
subscribe
what's up?
to. I subscribe to the belief in the Bible that it is telling morality through metaphor and allegory. It should not be taken literally, because if you do take it literally, the world is only a few thousand. It's 5,000-6,000 years old, and people lived for like 2,000 or 3,000 years back in the day.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Like there was a major shift that happened somewhere along the line. It's like we went from a 900-something-year-old Methuselah to 60-year-old Bill, whose average lifespan might be 75.
That's my guess. It's because of the gays.
Is that what it was?
And not only that, but the thing is, these were stories given by, assuming that this is all right, given by divine beings to mortals that had very little scientific understanding. So interpretation happened, combined with the story being retold and retold and retold before it's finally written down. And then it was in the hands of a very powerful organization that was run by men that still has questionable ethics to this day, that is based in Rome.
You're not telling me there's a group of people that have questionable ethics in charge?
Are we not flawed beings that have the ability to sin?
So now, from what you're saying, so I'm taking it.
It was aliens, dude. It was aliens.
Yeah, aliens. Well, they did. They built the pyramids and then they left. The aliens left after they built the pyramids.
Even though we've shown they could actually build those, it would take a long time and would require ramps that would have been taken down when the construction was complete.
Sure.
Yeah, but they would have left big imprints in the sand. You'd be able to see,
in your big fantasy world, but no. No, I always thought it was funny. They have talked about the pyramids, and they've talked about how like the stones are so well placed together, you can't slide a piece of paper. You wouldn't be able to fit anything between them. And I'm like, wait a minute. They've been sitting there for 5,000 years settling. I would guess.
Exactly.
I'm surprised they saw not one big piece of stone already.
They're made of sandstone. What is sandstone made of? Compacted sand.
Right.
What is surrounding this? Windy sand.
right?
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
surprised there's still lines on the outside. I swear they've
Nope.
got a team that goes out there at night carving those lines in to make sure they stay there.
Nope, they
Yeah.
actually just used anti-grav technology. I mean, come on.
Also, yeah. Also,
be
don't
silly.
forget certain things like the Sphinx. You don't see lines on it because there was a sand-based mortar used in between the stone.
Not only that, but wasn't it rebuilt like several times?
It was rebuilt a few times, yeah, with
Yeah.
advancing technology. Though they never quite got the nose right.
Well,
Yeah.
that only happened because God came in and decided He was going to reshape it in His image, but He stopped before it was done.
Yeah, and there was also a lot of singing and musicals about that.
Oh, see, Jake's asking about who built Stonehenge. That would be a bunch of druids using speak to animals who are able to get them to, load the stones.
Stone golems. It was stone
Yeah,
golems.
stone
Druids with
golems.
stone golems, and
Yeah,
maybe
fair
some
enough.
tree ants.
Probably.
Has anybody considered that maybe Stonehenge was just somebody's backyard gazebo, like where they had barbecues and shit?
No, it was a combination religious and timekeeping device. We've been able to prove this.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's like a calendar.
Also,
or some shit.
speaking of druids,
What?
annoy GM noises.
Yeah, we suck.
I don't know who he's talking to.
All of us, I would say.
I'm looking at you, Rob.
We
And John
can't
and
really
me.
tell because you look like you're just looking at your camera.
Yeah. Oh!
All right,
Half face reveal.
there he is. Docs his ass.
Yep,
All right.
there he is. Just Paul could just go from their eyes alone. They'll find
My name is Humongous.
you. Humongous what?
Technically speaking, though, that also looked like you were just looking out at the audience. So good stage presence.
I broke the fourth wall, guys.
It's been
We've officially gone meta.
all right, so enough about Iran and Iraq because that's a shit show, and it really. Well, I will ask this question: either one of you or both of you, timeline. When will we see the next Iranian missile strike, or will there be one?
They said they were going to calm down.
I can't say for certain. There's probably going to be some stuff in the next couple of months, everything from militia attacks to maybe some sort of missile stuff, but it's hard to say for now. It all depends on can Iran get their population under control, or is the population going to be revolting? Thus, yeah.
I thought their population was revolting for a long time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, they're attempting to calm them down by making America the big state.
John, just real quick, we said they were de-escalating, and then they came back and said, "Oh no, we're not going to stop until we've driven Americans out of the Middle East altogether." So they said, "Expect more missile attacks." It's basically what they said, but the question is that just bullshit all time?
And
How effective is it going to be?
And every Iraqi citizen killed in those missile attacks is going to be more pressure on the Iraqi government to demand the Americans stay for longer.
And
Now,
Henry here is making a good point. Yeah.
and that came up when Seawall was talking that because I was like, oh, I got to ask another question. So, should there be repercussions for the accidental dropping of the airplane
Yes.
from the anti-aircraft battery that fired?
Not militarily, but economically and diplomatically, yes. Due to how much of a fuck up it was on the Iranians' part, we're probably going to see action from the Chinese and the Russians, who are two friends of the Iranians.
Now, do you expect? So you expect that'll be in the form of sanctions versus any kind of military action?
I think it'll be in the form of sanctions, with basically the world community going, "Hey, Iran, it's time to calm the fuck down."
What,
What's the name of that well-known sleep medication? Take an Ambien and chill the fuck.
Yeah.
Take an Ambien and chill the fuck out.
Fuck that. I've heard what that does to you. I'm not interested.
you've only heard what it does to Roseanne Barr.
No, I've heard from other people too that that is actually an accurate.
It's a good date rape drug.
Okay, then smoke some fucking hashish. I don't care. Do something to calm the fuck down.
All right, so okay, I understand about those countries, but what is Canada's response going to be? I'm still sitting and waiting to hear what Trudeau is going to do about all the Canadian lives that were lost from this.
Well, here's the case. Yeah, Henry's right about this. He's going to give them money and apologize.
Yeah, he's going to give him money to apologize and claim that they killed us, so we win.
Yeah.
Or he's gonna send his wife over wearing something fairly risque, saying, "Please accept this peace offer."
Yeah.
Because Canada's not really. They're not really that kind of aggressive country that would really lash out, right?
Well, look, if Trudeau continues to be weak, especially with how many Canadians are dead, it's likely going to be another death nail in this party.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
I'm
likely,
actually really surprised he got reelected, honestly.
well, the trick is he used the first past the post system, which he promised to eliminate. If he didn't, his party would be minority in his government right now.
Well, I would assume that his age and good looks play into most of why he's still in power, too.
Probably.
Though.
Apparently, he's got a beard now.
I saw
No,
that. It's not.
He lost a lot of support in the breadbasket. Basically, everything west of the the Great Lakes is pretty much conservative country now. Plus a couple other minor parties.
So,
AKA, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the western provinces say, "Hey, fuck you, Canada. Hey, America, can we undo 1812 and surrender to you a little late?"
So
they weren't even a country in 1812.
That conservative part of Canada is the place to go
God
if the boogaloo begins, right?
No.
Well, I mean,
No.
if you want to just get the fuck out,
The place to be is
boogaloo.
Virginia, man.
Well,
Place
yeah.
to be is Virginia.
The place to be is Virginia for when the boogaloo starts.
Right. You want to go towards the fighting. You don't go away from it.
No, I don't see how that works.
You're not going to boogaloo with us?
Well, I have people that I have to take with me. Like I have to protect people, so I can't run to a fight with children.
No, you send them away to Canada, maybe.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But not yourself. No, you're still of fighting age. You can do something. I don't know.
Yeah, I can, but I mean,
You can
who's
spot
going to protect?
stuff.
Who's
I don't
going
know.
to protect my family?
Hey! I'm sure we could lash an M16 to your little mobility scooter.
So, fortunately, that walks us into our next topic, which is Virginia. I think we're at today's the 10th. Is that correct? We are 10 days away
correct.
from the potential start of some crazy shit in Virginia because of politicians that have been put in office and the things that they want to enact, which are some. I guess could be considered some pretty strict gun legislation. They're gonna get rid of assault weapons, is what they want to do across the board. But they want to grandfather in those that already have them, as long as they register those weapons, which obviously flies in the face of any gun owner who's a proponent of the Second Amendment that doesn't want to be able to.
Here's the problem: they lost the support of the local sheriffs, and not only that, the local sheriffs are deputizing people and using their constitutional right to form militias. It's game over for the Virginia government. It's time for them to surrender already. It's just sad.
So that becomes the question. Is it a weakness? Would that be a weak showing on the part of the Virginia government to capitulate to that, as opposed to standing strong and locking the state down?
Okay, let's see. What is the worst PR disaster? Surrendering and going, look, we fucked up, and then it gets forgotten about in about 4 news cycles.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Or them having National Guard kicking people's doors down, dragging women and children out screaming, and shooting people on their front lawns. Which one is the worst PR disaster?
You say that like Virginia has ever cared about PR. I mean, we're talking.
Yeah,
the only thing worse than PR in a state is West Virginia.
So, no, I mean, Northam was actually talking about just recently how most people are behind him in Virginia and the country. They all want this stuff to happen. Don't you know? All of them want it to happen.
Who?
Northam, the governor.
Uh-huh.
You know, Ku Klux Klan face guy.
Yep.
White face.
Okay, what about so
so I'm saying I'm saying not just him, but he's claiming that most people are behind it. not only in Virginia but in the country, but especially Virginia. Most people are behind it,
Right.
which obviously is ridiculous.
Well, because
But-
most of the population doesn't live in those 90 sanctuary counties, apparently.
Right, but no, I mean, my point is though that him saying, them saying, "Oh, if we just need to surrender now and just get rid of it, sweep it under the rug." I mean, he's going the opposite direction. He's saying that no, the people want this, they support it. We're going to go ahead with it as fast as we can.
Right. And that's
Look-
it's kind of a dumb move.
He's basically pulling a Napoleon III right now.
Yeah,
He is too clever by half for his own good.
Well, so let me ask this: we have a structure, we have processes in place to take care of this legally. If they put these laws into place, we have ways of getting the Supreme Court to nullify those laws in effect by by decreeing that they're unconstitutional. So, I guess my question is it better to take a violent approach to standing up, or to take the more peaceful approach of having it shot down by our federal government?
Well, the more peaceful approach is also going to take an extended period of time. And let's say the people lie down and just let it happen, or just let the courts handle it. By the time the courts handle it, most of the guns are going to be gone.
yeah.
Well, if they come and take them, right? So they'll have those situations. Do you not think the federal government is going to step in?
And stop Virginia government? Yes.
I mean, before
Because
we get
they're-
to this explosive point.
Well, likely what's going to happen is he's probably going to order the sheriffs to do it. They're going to say, fuck off. The state police are going to go, we ain't fucking touching this, and refuse the order. He's then going to try to send the National Guard. Trump's going to counter with calling the general of the National Guard, nationalizing it, and then telling him, you shall ignore Governor Northam's orders, and you will now report to me and me alone. And basically shut down his ability to enforce it. That's likely what's going to happen.
I'm kind of curious as to why the federal government hasn't gotten involved in this conversation already, as we get
Because
so much closer to the deadline.
has the law passed or no?
I don't believe that they put no. I believe it's on the 20th that when
vote.
they're going to be having votes and stuff on
Yeah.
this. That's
Exactly.
why the
They can't
demonstration.
do anything till it's voted in the law.
Well,
Until then,
wait.
they just sit and wait.
Wait, they can't come in and sit down and just have a conversation with these guys and go, look, you're about to do something really fucking stupid that's going to require that we come in and shut your ass down.
No, I mean, by design, the federal government is not supposed to intervene in
Exactly.
the states until they have violated the Constitution, and then they
Until
can step
that point, they have to do it. You can't pre-crime it, unfortunately.
in. Yeah.
And isn't that sad? You can't look at it. You can't go to them and say, look, you're about to violate the Constitution. If you do this, don't do it. I mean, that
I don't think
just
it's their
seems
place to do it. Even though I would like for that to happen, I don't think it's their place
It's
to do that.
arguably their place to do it. They can give advice to a governor, but he's not going to listen. It's like trying to give direction to a blind deaf man. It's not going to go well.
Well, now when you say it's not their place, John, I would
Mhm.
I would ask, okay, is it not the federal government's place to protect the citizenry, even if it means protecting them from themselves?
Yes and no. So in this particular case, right, we're having the possibility of an unconstitutional law passing, or a series of laws passing.
Yeah.
So no, it is not the federal government as a whole. It's not their place to step in until that law is passed.
Yeah.
But even then, it would have to be the Supreme Court. That particular part of the
It's going
government.
to and not only
because
that, but
the
it's going to
rest
have to
of them-
go through several lower courts first.
Yeah,
Right.
First
yeah.
has to go
It's
through
because
it has to go to first a basic federal judge who
Yeah.
picks up the lawsuit, probably
Right.
done as a combination of the NRA and several other organizations,
Yeah.
though behind an individual or behind a class suing the Virginia government. There's probably going to be an injunction put on this. Then it's going to work its way up through to the next level, the
Right.
appeals court, then the circuit
Right.
court.
Right.
Then the circuit court will go to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, based on current trends, is likely going to side with this is an unconstitutional law, strike it from the books.
Right, and
Right.
it's because, I mean, it's up to the courts to decide what is constitutional, what's not constitutional, not the rest of the federal government.
As I
So
said,
it's
the
up to the
president
courts
has
to
every
decide.
right to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, look, this is a
Yeah,
bad idea." But Ralph Northam is an anti-Trumper, and he's not going to listen to it.
you
So
probably
why
wouldn't
should he
take the
waste his
call.
time? Why should he waste his time?
Yeah,
Ron Helton says that it would take too long to get to the Supreme Court, which I understand that there's a process. He says, but they've proven over and over that as a staunch supporter of more government and a lousy defender of the Bill of Rights. I would argue, and
yes and no.
this goes back to our gun debate that we had about a year ago when I did a lot of looking into this, and the last three major cases that have come before the Supreme Court questioning states' gun laws, they have sided with the Constitution and deemed those laws to be unconstitutional. So, granted, they may not be the greatest when it comes to the Bill of Rights, but they have proven for a while, in the recent history, to support the Second Amendment and what it says. So that's why, again, I understand about not meddling in states' affairs, but it's sad to me to think that giving them advice, the federal government coming to them, sending somebody in, the vice president or whatever, and just saying, "Look, dude, this is going to turn out bad. It's not a good idea to do this because it is going to be unconstitutional, and the federal government's going to have to step in." I don't know. I guess it's considered meddling in it, but damn, letting a state fuck up this badly to where it's going to cause a situation where citizen may kill citizen. That's not good for me.
Or more specifically, citizen kills tyrant.
Yeah, but do you understand, or I hope maybe you can understand my point on this when I say that no matter where a boogaloo starts, it is going to be the impetus for people to take up their own axe to grind, whether it be that's not necessarily going to be at the oppressors, is going to be at the if they're racist, it might be at the black family 2 doors down. It's going to be the guy who hates homosexuals and decides to go to a gay bar, and add that to the chaos that's going on. We're not going to have people that are simply, fighting authority only, and still authority going after citizenry. That's the same thing. Citizen against citizen. These kind of things. Man, we got to find a way to not have this shit happen and solve this in the right way.
And the best option would be for the government to strip a fuckload of power from itself, shutting down probably a good 60% of the bureaucracy, pulling almost all power from the federal, returning it to the state, and the state pulling a lot of that power, returning it to the local, leading to a decentralized system much more in line with our founders, but also leading to a lot of politicians losing a lot of power.
But isn't that exactly, to a certain extent, let me finish. Isn't that kind of what's happening in Virginia right now? They're letting the state do what they want. So the state is getting to do what it wants.
But the state is also violating the concept of the counties superseding it to an extent. They are stepping on the toes of the county's ability.
But then, now, okay, so to clarify, though, the Constitution doesn't say anything past the state level. Is that correct?
Not particularly, but it was a fairly clear intent that the states were supposed to leave a lot of the counties alone.
Because ultimately, if I'm not mistaken, I thought that fell under whatever the state's constitution says. So whether or not they apportion power to the lower governments, basically giving counties rights supersede states' rights. I thought the state itself had to give that power.
It can be argued either way, but the way how a lot of counties were run back in those days was very much like their own states. It's just they covered less. In this situation, they're basically saying these select few cities have the right to tell citizens in these other cities what to do, which is flying in the face of the spirit. Yes, the letter of the law is unclear, but there is a spirit of decentralization within the federal government to prevent a tyranny from forming. And don't forget, Rob, the Second Amendment, it wasn't there for hunting. It was specifically there to
Oh,
protect it against tyranny. And if that means that's what's going to happen, we can't stop it. I mean, what is it? The U.S. is involved in a major conflict every 80 years.
You mean within itself?
Within itself or with an outside force. And I don't see us getting involved with an outside force anytime soon. Combine that with the large amount of societal distrust and societal, what was it? I can't remember the term. Social alienation that has been going on, with the also splitting of the political ideology so radically that, look, the right has actually stayed very solidly together for a long time. And the center and kind of the moderates of the left have also stayed together. It's just the left-wing faction has just gone off the left field.
Well, yeah, we could say that's a response to Trump, and not a legitimate response. But
No, that was years before Trump. It's just they're accelerating.
Wait, so but you know what? I can't abide by anybody sitting here, and because currently they're the bad guys laying everything over the last 30, 50 years at the feet of Democrats, when I know goddamn good and well that both the right and the left have been equally as fucked up when it's been their turn to be in power, when it's their turn to have a president. They're all fucked up, and they've been fucking this country up and making it more divisive for the last 30 plus years, and it cannot be laid on one side or the other.
And yet one side has stayed roughly in the same place the entire time. The other side is the one that has gone off the deep end.
Sure, that's a legitimate personal opinion.
Who has controlled the media this entire time? What has come out in recent years that the quote-unquote golden age of journalism turned out it was controlled by the CIA and the left the entire time.
Okay, so nobody on the right has media in their pocket. That, I think, it would be a total crock of shit to make that statement.
Only recently have they gotten in the past 25 years?
Yeah, Fox News was like 1998, 1996, something like that, right?
Both parties have been using the media for propaganda and pushing their agendas for decades.
Propaganda has only been seemingly going in one direction. I haven't seen CNN in the past 50 years pushing hard Christian positions. I've seen them pushing left-wing positions of the time, and they just keep going a little bit further left each time. Same thing with ABC, same thing with MSNBC when it cropped up. It is the same shit. Same thing with New York Times. They've always been on the side of the left. They just used to be a lot more civil with the right.
I understand that is a great talking point, and that is where people have this hard line. But I'm telling you right now, I am not going to sit here and say Democrats are the only cause of the problems in this fucking country.
No, no one's saying that.
Both sides create equal
but it's not equal. It is not equal.
Over the years, it has been. Over the years, it
No, it hasn't.
I disagree.
Has tried to be respected. When has the right run out into the streets and beat people for having the wrong opinions? As a standard tactic.
Okay, let's start with the fucking president who's not afraid to tell people, you should go hit that guy in the fucking head. We should kill people.
One statement in one position.
Whoa. He makes statements like this constantly.
And yet we also don't see it manifesting.
Manifesting or not, what I'm saying, the point is this is his mindset, and there are other Republicans in Washington who have a similar mindset.
Can you not argue that mindset is a response to the right being attacked by the left? The left has been the violent one from the beginning. They've always been the violent one. The Democrats were always the left party.
What violence?
It's just
What?
You're forgetting the KKK for all those years?
Okay,
the militant wing of the Democrats and the KKK? That's the Democrat.
So that's the Democratic Party in Washington. That's Democrats in Washington supporting the KKK.
And then they moved on to groups like the Weather Underground and other hard left, pro-communist, far left groups, as well as elements of, the New Black Panthers. They defended them when they intimidated voters during the Obama
So when did white supremacists, the KKK, all of that, go from the far right to the left.
It was never far right. The racism is not right or left wing. It has never been that way.
Okay,
The KKK
you're
was
right. You're right.
pro-socialism.
Okay.
The KKK was pro-socialism.
Hang on, guys, both of you.
Support.
Hang on. Left and right was created during the French Revolution to describe if you were pro-revolution or anti-revolution. That's what left and right were. Right. So when we say left and right now, we're using it as short term for different ideologies. Right. So the Democrats haven't always been left or far left. The Republicans haven't been right or far right. Right. It's just what ideology are we pushing right now, and the Democrats are pushing socialism. They are now far left.
They've been pushing it since at least the 20s, if not earlier.
I mean,
Wilson was a socialist, or a very light socialist. If you look back further, you also see this is coming from Dinesh D'Souza, but there were a lot of Democrats that were starting to get votes from blacks during segregation because they were promising the blacks welfare.
Yeah,
it's a different form of slavery.
Yeah, it's a different form of slavery on dependence instead of.
There has not been a great flip. The great flip they talk about, what was it, the 50s, where the Republicans became racist?
The Southern strategy and everything.
Yeah. Look, it kind of existed, but it was more to get the least racist Southerners to vote Republican. That was the Southern strategy.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party has always been racist. It just changed who they hate. Or more specifically, they now hate everyone. Instead of liking one group, they hate all groups in their own way, or look down on all groups in one way. If you look at the history, the Democratic Party has done more damage than the Republican, by far.
I think corruption.
And they have used
corruption on both sides in Washington.
Yes, there is corruption on both sides.
A lot of the Republican corruption is more personal self-enrichment. You don't see them trying to subvert the system, to change it into something completely
Whoa. We just talked about a Republican, a proclaimed Republican, who's trying to change the system now so that he doesn't have to have a trial in the way it's supposed to be.
What party was Trump part of for most of his life until he ran?
That's why I air quoted self-proclaimed Republican.
Right,
but he's representing a party now. That's all that matters.
And not only that, but the president does have certain executive authorities to counter the Senate and the House to keep them from overriding the legislator. That is overriding the executive. Why do you think the courts exist? They're the referee. Let the courts decide if Trump is right or wrong. Don't give judgment until the court has picked a side. Because the court might just say, look, the president has a right to tell him no because of executive privilege, and you're demanding information that you have no right to ask for because it is tied specifically to the executive.
But yeah, see, it just becomes confusing because an impeachment is very specifically about the executive, and it's supposed to be a trial.
Still has checked, but the executive still has to check the legislator. You cannot give one more power than the other. Sure. You are giving one more power. You cannot give the legislator limitless power in an impeachment. The president has to have the right to fight back.
Through absolute power? I mean, that's the
catch.
It should be
power.
His lawyer.
I am not calling for absolute power. I'm saying that he has a right to say, no, fuck you, I don't want him to testify. And then they come to an impasse and they got to go to the referee, which is the court.
Right. So it should be his counsel that is making that case, not the president trying to sign off an executive order to just suppress a witness.
Wait, when did Trump's lawyer have the ability to directly counter the House? Oh, wait, they don't.
Whoa.
You can't.
We're talking about a trial here.
It is not a criminal trial. A criminal trial is a very different affair.
But the defendant shouldn't be calling the shots in any kind of trial. His lawyer should be making things happen. That's my point.
But the lawyer is acting on the behalf of the defendant.
Not when he signs an executive order. The lawyers have
And that
nothing to do with
executive,
that.
yeah, and the executive order can be countered by the court saying, "Sorry, Mr. President, but they have a right to do this," or the courts go, "I'm sorry, legislator, the president has the right to do this." You cannot judge him until the courts have made their choice. So either be quiet and wait for the courts, or keep talking shit.
Well, I'd like to see the constitutionality of being able to do that. Is
You
ultimately,
will.
I mean, that's
He basically saying the president says, "I don't want to give you something because to check the power of the legislator." Because if you say the legislator can subpoena anyone, they could subpoena his wife and force her to testify against him. Should not the president have the right to say, "No, fuck you, leave my wife out of this"?
actually that's actually built into our justice system that you can't do that. You can't force a wife to testify against a husband like that. But Bolton, if he, I mean, it's just the problem with, it goes back to, okay, no, we don't want any new evidence introduced. We don't want any new testimony coming into this. We just want to go with what's there, and I can understand.
The Democrats had their chance, and they're holding it up. The only reason Pelosi's moving forward now is because the Republicans are saying, "Look, we're going to adopt a concept from the criminal courts where if the prosecution doesn't bring the case, you dismiss it out of hand." It is a purely political strategy, and I think it's time for them to get their dick kicked for being political shits.
Well, and I'm not going to argue. I want the whole thing over with as well. I get that. I want it done above board. I want it done the right way.
It was below board from the beginning. If the foundation is rotted, you can't build anything solid on it. You just burn it out and rebuild.
Okay. Well, I kind of disagree.
And technically, one of the two impeachment things, they can't even do anything, the contempt of Congress or whatever. The courts haven't decided if Trump has the right to tell people to ignore the subpoena or not. So one of the two, just throw it out the window right now because the court hasn't decided. The other one, abuse of power, is so nebulous that they're changing the rules so that when Republicans are not in the presidency but have control in the House and Senate, they're giving carte blanche for this shit to happen to the other side, Rob. Rob, if you want to stand with the Constitution, you have to stand against this entire impeachment process and demand it be shut down by any means. Because it is so fucked up that it will lead to a complete gridlock that can never be solved. We have to stop it now. We have to burn out the foundation, and we have to embarrass the shit out of the Democrats, and so that they cannot hold power, and we can try to get this shit cleaned up.
Yeah, and see, that ultimately just sounds like I don't want Democrats in power because I don't like Democrats. I'm a Republican. Fuck Democrats. That's a party line comment. I mean.
Yeah, I don't like the side that says that I should be genocided.
Not only that, but hang on, Robert, because it's also saying that he doesn't want Republicans to have that same power.
Exactly. I want to burn this out so no one can do this.
Anyone from having that kind of power, to be fair.
I want to pull the emergency brake, and that means burning this out.
Yeah, I just don't want it to happen at the cost of American lives because I think that's just fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid, but
well, the tree.
Unfortunately, we're dealing with Tree of Liberty needs to be refreshed with the blood of tyrants and patriots from time to time.
Well, I know, but it's this idea that there's any liberty going to come from it. I mean, this is it's let's take a page from other places around the world. How many places overthrow their government only to have a shittier government wind up being installed in place?
That's usually when we put them in place.
Not only that, but look at the foundation of those nations. Those nations didn't have the concepts of liberty. They didn't have the American founding fathers. They didn't have that.
And do you honestly believe that the bulk of the American public understands what liberty really is?
No, I don't think they do.
Right?
Not until they have to bleed for it.
I mean, and it goes back to my mindset. You can't have freedom without the sacrifice of liberty. you have to sacrifice some liberty to have that freedom that we
Oh, yeah.
we hold so
There,
highly.
there are some checks to prevent anarchy, which leads to violation of the NAP. Unfortunately, some people don't care about the non-aggression principle because they either aren't intelligent enough to understand it or they're immoral.
So Ron Helton in the chat says yes, yes, the tree of liberty. There's no way to secure rights without shedding blood. Once the tyrants have absolute control, like we see now. So would you agree that, the impeachment bullshit aside, does our government have absolute control right now?
I don't
we
think it's
at
as
that
bad
point?
as you say.
Not yet.
I don't think
Not
it's as
yet.
bad as that. They're not. Yeah, they don't have absolute.
They have
They're certainly
extreme-
trying. Don't get me wrong.
They're trying, but the thing is, we have the check. The second they take guns away, that's when they have the absolute control.
Yeah.
When they have removed the ability of the people to efficiently overthrow it with the least amount of blood.
Okay, so then, since we're talking about guns, and I'm going to bring this point up, this conversation is not new.
No.
I've been hearing the fear of our guns being taken away since I was a kid.
And I'll give you the same answer I've given you before about that, though. Is that show me a gun law that has been repealed, and show me gun laws that have been added since then. There's a disparity there.
There
Exactly.
is to a certain extent, but
No,
you
massive.
have, say, one of the statistics that I pulled up in our last gun debate. Roughly 90% of gun owners agree with background checks. The NRA is in support of a bump stock ban.
An organization that's dealing with PR may sacrifice its principles from time to time.
Okay.
Also,
And a lot of gun owners are
stocks,
a lot of gun owners are pissed off at the NRA for doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure,
Not only that, but the background checks. I don't have a problem with background checks. I have but the thing is, my version of background check is very different from what they probably use the term. Are you in favor of background checks? Or did they say, look, or did they go through the entire policy with the person and then the person decides then? They say, well, there's going to be a background check. It costs you $300. It'll take 2 months to complete. By then, you may or may not get the gun. There will be a hold on it. That's basically what they have to do. Instead, are you in favor of background checks to buy a firearm? Or expanded background checks?
Actually, from what I was looking at, there was actually the if the background check has not come back within, I want to say it was a 3 to 5 day period, the seller has the right to go ahead and give you the gun if the background check hasn't come back.
Oh, I didn't realize they actually had that safety because I actually do like that system. But mine is a little bit different, if you wouldn't mind a little bit of policy for a moment. Mine is the federal government has 30 minutes to run the background check. If they fail to run it in 30 minutes, the gun can walk away immediately. And if that gun is then used for a crime, federal government's on the hook for it. They have to pay damages because they failed in their duty. If they want a background check, there has to be a cost for it not working.
Well, let me ask you this then, Seawall. Very straightforward question. If you are in agreement for a background check system, are you not effectively saying you're okay with a certain amount of infringement of your Second Amendment rights?
Well, it wouldn't be an infringement because the only people that would be affected are those that are criminals, and the other group that are affected are those that are what we legally called back in the day a lunatic, or somebody who is not responsible for themselves.
I understand what the background checks do. I understand what the background checks do, but the point is, there's a lot of argument out there that any kind of background check it constitutes as an infringement on the Second Amendment because it says shall not be infringed. And any holdup to getting a gun, anything that adds a process to getting it, that's an infringement.
30 minutes. That's why I say 30 minutes.
So you're okay with 30 minutes of infringement?
Is extremely low.
But still,
I wouldn't even call 30 minutes infringement.
I actually agree with you, Robert. I think that it is an infringement. Yeah.
I mean, any legislation about any legislation around guns becomes an infringement.
Yes, and they should not be had. So I mean that's where I'm coming from. I obviously Seawald, disagrees a little bit, but
So,
I mean, still, I mean, obviously, any kind of gun laws are an
Right.
infringement on the Second Amendment. It's just
Yep.
how much are you willing to compromise?
Right.
And
that's
that line has
That
already been
tiny
crossed a
amount is
long
all
time
I'm willing
ago.
to, that tiny amount is all I'm willing to compromise.
well, and see
That tiny amount.
and that's ultimately my point to this is that if a large percentage of gun owners truly do agree with background checks in whatever capacity, whatever capacity it might
Yeah.
be, then haven't gun owners that say that accepted the slippery slope that little bit of infringement creates?
Yes, they have.
Okay.
They're compromising, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, that compromising never stops. And that's something that people don't realize. When people compromise like that, their thought process is, let's just give them this, and then it'll stop. But it never does.
So, so we know that it's become such a major talking point because basically the shit's hit the fan in the last 2 to 3 years when we talk about gun use, the violence associated with guns. Now I understand it's not the gun, right? It's the person wielding the gun. I'm not so stupid that I think taking guns away is going to solve that problem because we've
Yeah.
seen examples where a knife can do an equal amount of damage running through
Or
a
a
crowd,
truck.
right? Or a truck, right?
Or more
Yeah.
damage in the form of, you remember Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City
Sure,
bombing?
a Ryder
Yeah.
trucks right out in front of the Oklahoma City
Yeah.
federal building.
180
or-
people or something like that were
Yep.
dead in the end, and that building was half full.
Right, right. And so I understand that guns aren't the issue here. So is there a greater way to address this issue, which, if we understand that it's about the people, how do we curtail this kind of violence that, recently has often involved guns?
It is an extremely complex problem, but I do have a couple of solutions that would help. The first one is we need to bring back mental asylums. We need to contain the crazies. Yes, a lot of fucked up shit happened in them. And there's not much.
Hold them more accountable, though.
We can hold them more accountable to set it up. Just letting the crazies out is one of the things. The second one would be we either through societal pressure or if there's no other option absolutely necessary, suppress the name and identity of the person who did it.
Mm-hmm.
Make it so that they do not get famous. Maybe even have laws in the book saying we will literally unperson you. We will delete you from all records. You never existed. So we remove the attention grabbing.
I don't like that either, though. That goes a little bit too far.
Yeah, even if you don't have
the
the name of the
unpersoning part.
if you don't have the name of the person, the mainstream media is going to over glamorize these moments when there isn't something bigger in the media line, right?
I'm not
You
even
don't-
talking about that. I'm talking about this unpersoning someone. I don't care
That's
who
why I
it is.
prefer through societal pressure to get
Yeah.
the media companies to stop this.
Wait.
We as a society say when they start doing that off, we turn the TV off. We refuse to read the articles. We basically boycott them until they learn. You give a limited report about what happened, and then you move on.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Yeah.
Well,
obviously you have to
and
get
allow-
people on
and-
board,
yeah.
but
Right,
Yeah.
and I don't think he actually meant like unperson them as like
That's what he
make
said,
their
though.
social security number go away. They become a non-entity. It's
That's what he
suppressing.
said.
I'm talking every record of their existence.
Yeah,
is
that's what
first
he's
on
saying.
existence.
Yeah, but you
that's
can't
exactly what he's saying.
I'm saying that's the extreme option if we can't get
Right.
the system.
But
other
you
way.
can't citizenize somebody.
Well,
But
yeah,
you know
no,
what?
The reason I'm not for that is just because
They have done such a horrible crime against this nation. It is akin to treason. They killed their fellow Americans for some sort of extreme gain. They acted directly against the people.
Yeah, but the thing is, now we go back to the slippery slope again,
Right.
right? I mean, how long until you expand that to some other crime, whatever other crime that might be, and it just gets easier and easier to go along the way.
You're talking to someone who thinks that if you're part of an organized crime, you should be considered a traitor to the nation and executed for being.
Well, again, that's a little.
So we should
a
kill
little
off
extreme
Washington.
for me too.
So we kill everybody.
Yeah.
We kill everybody in DC.
I'm going to disavow that comment.
Well, not
because
everyone
this is
in
on the
DC.
internet.
Yeah,
That's one of those things. It's like we can't just So when you talk about getting the crazies off the street, though, you're
that's
talking
my idealism.
right. But when you talk about getting the crazies off, off the streets, does that not scream the same thing as these red flag laws, though? Like, how many people are just going to get caught up in something like that? I mean, it's an interesting sounding solution.
The system existed previously.
Yeah.
Sure.
And the problem is no system is perfect, but with each time it gets it wrong. If we build a system that does what it can to protect and oversee, we can use every example as a way to prevent the example from happening in the future. A system that writes itself given time.
I would.
No system is perfect. Because the thing is, Rob, you can say the same thing about the criminal justice system in the U.S. How many innocent men have gone to jail?
Sure, I understand that. But the thing about the insanity, like, all it took was for a close loved one to sign off and say, that my husband needs to be committed, or my mom needs to be committed.
And I'm not saying it should be at that level. I'm saying it should require. Obviously, that's the initial flag, but then moving on from there, there has to be actual combination of hearings as well as multiple experts brought in.
Yeah, but I see our
to
government
limit the damage.
I see our government pulling more of a Guantanamo Bay with it than anything else.
Which is why I would implement this after massively decreasing the size of government.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There's your major problem to solve.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm sad it won't be easy. The other thing to do that would help reduce the number of crazies that are forming the mental health problem we're having, it's partially because people don't have hope anymore. How many young people are having trouble finding a job? I mean, not right now, it's gotten better, but over the past, how hard has it been for them to find a job, to find someone to be close to? We need to do a combination of one, and I think, Rob, you agree with this, shut the doors for a while, get our own shit in order for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one I would have is we bring back shame for certain behaviors in society. Promiscuity should be one of them.
Yeah.
At a societal level, not a governmental level.
Yeah, but
there are certain governmental policies I would put in place that could lead to that, but they are more to try to promote better decisions within people.
Yeah, there have been, now I'm not going to say there haven't been times when judges tried to pull that stuff, but things like that, though, sad to say, in the present day and age, like you were talking about, people don't have hope. Well, people also have a high level of anxiety / anger, frustration, and putting people out there on the street in that shame culture, man.
I'm not talking about shaming the shooter. I'm not talking about shaming the shooters. I'm talking about the people that are shaming the people that have abused the shooters through their lives, because a lot of the shooters were heavily bullied. They were heavily bullied, because the thing is, people say, "Oh, we need to bring back bullying in schools." It still exists. It's just gotten
never went away.
as fuck. And the schools don't punish the bullies anymore. They punish everyone equally. Instead, we need to start punishing the bullies again.
You talk about like no hope with it's hard. It's hard to wrap around a concrete answer on any of this when you turn around and you see things like our president is saying, "Oh, we've created more jobs, more people are at work, or unemployment rates are lower, and this and the other."
Right now things are getting better. They are getting better on that front.
They actually aren't, though, because while people may have jobs, that doesn't mean they can afford to live. Like, the cost of living has nowhere stayed near wages in this country. I mean, it really hasn't.
Yeah, but the problem is companies are starting to adapt to that very quickly because of the shrinking availability of labor. Because there's so much demand for workers. We're entering a seller's market for labor. We were in a buyer's market for a long time. We're entering a seller's market. Rob, just give it time. What was it? Did Taco Bell say they're going to start giving 6-figure salaries to their managers?
I don't know.
I haven't heard about
Taco Bell, because they are so desperate for skilled labor, semi-skilled labor. At Taco Bell, they're experimenting with offering 6-figure salaries at corporate locations, as well as for all employees, offering sick time, paid sick time. These companies, through the market forces alone, are starting to catch up. They're increasing pay, they're increasing benefits because they don't have enough people or they can't find enough people. And this is for low skill and no skill jobs. If you were to get the illegal immigration situation resolved in the U.S. by getting most of the illegals out, you would see a renaissance for construction workers where pay would massively increase, benefits would massively increase. You would also see the U.S. adopting a lot of new automation technologies to try to fill in some of the gaps.
And
Look,
that's that of course
not as much as you might. It's not going to cause as big of a problem as you might think. The thing that I used to be someone that said, "Hey, we may need to regulate automation for a little while." I was wrong. Yes, I know. The first time in my life, I was wrong about it. But in actuality,
you were wrong earlier today. What are you talking about?
arming sword with shield is still the better option, and everyone knows it.
No, I'll explain later why.
But yeah, as I was saying, the thing is, the automation that they're talking about putting in place actually won't displace jobs. It'll enhance existing jobs. For example, one of the automations, like the self-driving cars, they're still going to require a driver in the vehicle for just in case something goes wrong. It's going to take probably 30 or 40 years before they can be on their own.
Wait. But they've been successfully testing self-driving trucks in Europe for the last few years.
They're testing the technology.
Yes.
They are testing the technology, and they have a chase car behind it just in case the thing fucks up. They're testing the technology. For this to be allowed on the roads, there is going to be a massive push by probably lawmakers and insurance companies.
Probably teams.
The insurance companies and unions are going to step in and say, hey, look, for the safety of other drivers on the road, we need somebody in the vehicle that can flip the override switch and take control if something goes wrong.
There's a better way to do that, though. There's a better way that we can fully automate.
Oh, God.
All we got to do is keep people in the loop, like you said, but they don't have to be out there. Just Wi-Fi network across the country,
and congratulations,
do it digitally.
and congratulations. Congratulations. Now, 10 to 20% of your trucking fleet somehow has ended up in Mexico. Hackers will take over those systems, Rob. Guaranteed. They will not let these things be networked.
Not only that, but let's imagine that it works perfectly and everything's good until you have connection issues, until you have some kind of fuck up in.
We're not going to have connection issues. We're at 5G now. We're at 5G.
Actually, 5G might be regulated out of existence because it fucks with weather radar. Yeah, it might be shut down completely because it fucks with weather radar. It'll set us back by about 50 years in weather prediction if they allow it to get widespread.
5G,
why don't they just tie
without warning? I don't know, man.
Why don't they just tie the weather radars into the 5G network?
I
can't. They can't because the thing is the 5G network acts as a giant jamming system. Nice. How radar specifically works is it sends a controlled beam out that spins around. That's how radar works. It sends out a beam. Now, if you add in a giant static burst, you're basically fucked.
Okay,
because it's jamming.
So none of this was thought of in the beginning phases of this whole 5G push? Like, nobody's considered this before it ever got to the point where we're rolling it out?
Well, so legislators specifically supposed to be slow to act. It's supposed to be taking a long time.
No. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the technology. I'm talking about the technology. Like, there was no foresight in the industry to see that this was going to be a complication.
They didn't ask the question. They asked the question, could they do it, not should they do it. Welcome to the world of innovation. It's rare they ask the question, should I rather than could I. Should I rather than could I.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's the could I is the important part here. Can we make this work?
They're ignoring the should I. Basically, the band that 5G is using is the same band for weather radar. It's in the same ballpark and it's fucking it up. The reason why it's not being pushed back against is because I guarantee you...
Oh, it's too much money.
Too much money's involved. Engineers are saying, hey, look, this is going to cause this problem, but other engineers are going like, no, it'll be fine. Who do you think the executive's going to listen to?
Yeah.
It's a flaw in the system that we don't have more people with technical backgrounds in CTO positions at companies. A lot of them are actually business guys with a little bit of tech. Here's an example from my own history. I worked at a finance company for a time. The CTO did not have any computer hardware experience. He literally asked me one day, could you download more space onto my computer? The CTO of a company that handles billions of dollars.
See, and that's so interesting to me that that you can look at something like this and go, this is billions of this is billions.
I'm in the IT industry, man.
This is billions of dollars spent on a technology, and that kind of foresight didn't factor in. I mean, that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. That
and
they couldn't. They didn't account for this.
The green energy industry. Do they look at the potential flaws of the power technology, or do they keep just pushing the green tech? How many birds have been set on fire by solar panels?
3, 4, I don't know.
2 or 3 per minute in some areas.
Birds aren't
That's
real.
kind of awesome, though.
John told me birds aren't real anyway.
Well, John, you want to guess what they're called when they burst into flames?
Firebirds. Phoenix.
Streamers.
Nice.
Streamers, yeah. No, I mean, they're called failed technology at that point.
And how many birds have died due to windmills? As well as what is the other environmental cost of creating it? How long do they need to be in operation before they pay for themselves? That is a problem. Solar panels right now take about 3 years of continuous 100% operation to pay back the energy it took to make them.
But let me ask you this. How many birds do you use on a daily basis, and how much power do you use on a daily basis?
Exactly.
It seems like a trade-off to me.
But if you kill off too many of the birds, that will lead to other environmental negative effects because they are there to help balance out certain things.
I get it. I maintain a natural habitat in our. We have one. Yeah, we have lots of birds. I mean, I know what they do.
Yeah.
I'm just being facetious.
And another example from the environmental movement. I love this story. It's from the redwoods. What was happening was there was a region that was having some logs nearby the redwoods. There was a small species of owl that its population was decreasing. They said, "Aha! It must be the logging." So they stopped the logging. A couple years later, they found out, oh wait, it's this other natural species of owls that hunt the other species. Guess what they did to try to solve the problem?
Kill off the other owls.
Exactly. Yeah. So a natural process was whenever we try to fix something, we fuck it up even more. It's one of those things that people don't ask if we should do something. We ask if we could do something. We need to start asking both questions simultaneously.
Well, now, I will say this about solar power. I have lots of lights and different things around my property that use solar panels, and I can say I have never seen had a bird burned on my property, so I'm clean.
But I am talking about those giant solar fields in the desert.
Again,
and the thing is, I actually do love those small. Yeah, I know. I do love those small solar panels that are in like outdoor lights. That's a great technology that I'm completely fine with it being a little energy inefficient.
Yeah, that's a little different.
It's a different technology. It's not a technology meant to fix an energy problem. It's a method to make it easier to have lights on your property. It's convenience technology.
Yeah.
No, I completely understand. I mean, I get that. I'm just playing around with it. But I mean, when it's all said and done, there's, we need to find a way to make use of some sort of technology that doesn't require busting the earth open to get more resources. Because, I mean, come on, they're finite. I mean, we're not going to see it in our lifetime.
They're finite, but the problem is the technologies that you're talking about. To get solar to be efficient as people want it to be, you'd have to basically build a giant orbiting ring satellite around the planet with solar panels and somehow find a way to transmit that power from orbit down to the surface. Which would require so many resources that you'd have to dig up far more to do it.
But they're working on it. They are working on something similar to that.
So
I'm a proponent of nuclear because for the amount of shit we got to dig out versus other stuff, it's a lot less. And it's a good stepping stone towards the ultimate technology, which would be fusion power.
I still get twitchy from 3 Mile Island. Sorry. Hey,
you mean the systems that actually stop itself and the media overblew it because the coal lobby paid them to? You know who the
they overblew it because Chernobyl. Duh.
Chernobyl was a bad Russian reactor design being utilized by barely trained Ukrainians after they turned off every single safety they had.
Yeah, well, I still don't trust our technology, especially when I know that there's CTOs asking out there, can you download more space on my fucking computer?
Robert,
hold on. I want to give a shout out to Boulder Vaughn. We've got somebody that's dropped in from Steven Ignoramus. And by the way, I like the way he threw his first chat in there. Boulder Vaun is here.
Is here, right? Like the old Facebook,
That's a nice little. But anyway, what were you going to say, John?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say we're running up on the clock here.
Whatever. The clock don't matter.
No. But I was gonna say, why don't we end on one last argument? Seawall, I want to hear your argument for why the arming sword is the most superior sword of all.
God.
Hey, listen, I had to listen to you guys talk about bullshit energy and shit. All right.
The arming sword, I argue, is better because it frees up your offhand and is able to be easily wielded in one hand. Though you can wield it with a second hand if you're doing things like half swording, which is what you would do versus an armored opponent, as well as techniques like grabbing it by the blade and then hitting them with the fucking pommel.
Whereas you can do that with any sword.
You can do that with any sword. But because you're freeing up your offhand, you can more easily utilize a shield or a dagger for defenses.
Right, but so the thing is, though, that using the shield and you can use other your offhand. I mean, the thing is, you have to use a shield or a dagger, but more likely a shield in order to make it effective. I mean, half swording with an arming sword, they're too short. It's not going to be as effective as half swording with a long sword.
True, but you get more versatility. Where with the longer swords, you cannot use a shield at all, or at best a buckler.
With the bastard sword, you could. With the hand and a half.
The hand and a half.
The hand and a half sword is a bastard sword because you can't decide if it's two-handed or one-handed. Yeah.
I see. I think you're both wrong. I just bring a rock troll. All right.
But no. The arming sword requires an accessory in order to be effective. Therefore, it is not the superior sword.
But two-handed swords limit your versatility significantly.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Plus, like I mentioned earlier, which you didn't answer, what happens if you're grappled? With the sword and shield. With the sword and shield, you have no hands free.
Headbutt! I go headbutt.
Drop the shield.
I'm going to say headbutt.
You drop the shield, right. So then you're not effective anymore.
You can drop the shield also.
Maybe not.
Yeah. Well, it depends on if you're using a light shield or a heavy shield. Heavy shields I'm not as big a fan of. Yeah. Also, getting grappled while you're using a two-handed sword, your hands are busy. Yes, you can let go with one hand, but that also means your grip on the sword is weakened, which means it's easier to grab by someone else.
Slightly, but it's not much more heavy than an arming sword. That's what a lot of people don't understand, is a long sword is not heavy at all. They're probably about the same weight.
All I hear is two whack jobs talking about bringing a sword to a fucking gunfight. All right.
Swords are
well, not only that, but remember, under tabletop rules, if you're grappled, you can only use a light weapon, and an arming sword is a type of light weapon.
That's so stupid. I know.
I tell you what.
That's so stupid.
Why don't you
don't make me roll my d20 on you? Don't make me roll my d20 on you.
Why don't you two take a road trip up to Virginia with your swords and let me know how that turns out for you.
No, fuck that. No, fuck that shit. There are guns involved in there. We're talking about pure swords here.
Yeah. We're talking about...
There are no guns involved.
Yeah, I get it.
Talking about gentlemen.
Right.
But
being gentlemen here.
John, what about hand and a half sword or arming sword in one hand and a pistol in the other? Modern day pirate.
No, a rapier or a saber would be a better combination with a pistol.
True. True.
more versatility, like you were saying.
Does that
Is
depend
there-
on the pistol?
You're giving up. You're giving up stabbing versus slashing at that point. The saber is better as a slashing weapon.
With the rapier, you can do both. You can slash.
Rapier is just not that good of a slashing weapon. It's a stabbing.
It's not the best. No, it is primarily a stabbing weapon. It's not meant for slashing all the time. But you
I think
absolutely
Robin's
can't do
getting
it.
tired with us, man.
Hang on, because the top quarter of a rapier is sharp, so you can easily slash somebody with that. It wouldn't be too difficult. I think you're thinking of a foil, like a fencing
I
foil.
might be thinking of a foil. Yeah.
Yeah, which is different than an actual rapier.
I think Rob is falling asleep on us, but it is his past his
No,
bedtime.
no.
That's true.
Oh no, I don't go to sleep till like 2:00. So, it
All right,
is one of those
let's
things.
go ahead and end it then. But let's let it be known that Sewell was wrong.
I actually kind of lean towards his argument about the versatility.
Well, he's wrong about the versatility.
With
That's
the
the thing.
larger swords, you just are more confined to that larger space. You're confined to that larger weapon, and you really don't have as much use of both hands. I mean, when you start talking about those bigger swords, both hands get involved, and you're pretty much just hoping the sword is the only thing that's going to stop it.
They're not as big as you think they are, and they're certainly not as heavy as you think
I've
they
picked
are.
I've picked up a few swords. I mean, they're not.
They're only about 20% heavier. The two-handed swords are
They're
about
not.
20% heavier, maybe 20%.
Not even, no.
No.
They're about the same weight. They're really it's negligible difference in weight. It's because the metal is thicker on the arming sword. It's like a thicker blade.
Well, then
Then
why
you
not
have
go
on a
for a
long
slightly?
sword.
Then why not go with a slightly thinner blade on the arming sword?
Well, because they're probably gonna have. I'm not sure why. I'm not a metallurgist, but there's a reason why they did it. I'm not sure why.
You do
There is a
realize that the
reason why.
arming sword came out before those two-handed swords. It was
Yeah, that's what I'm
older
saying. I'm
technology.
not sure why.
So
they
if you're
do it,
using modern, because the thing is they do historical reenactment. If you use
Yeah.
modern techniques with the arming sword would be better.
Mm.
I don't think so. I don't think so. We'll have to test that sometime.
Which doesn't sound like a historical reenactment in and
Right.
of itself.
But we're talking about the basic concepts of these swords,
Yeah.
not in their historical, situation.
Yep.
You know what? Owning a sword is not protected by the Constitution. Owning a gun is. So
Swords are definitely protected by the Constitution.
Where is that considered arms?
Yes, it's part of bearing arms.
Oh,
yes.
maybe that's why he
Part
wants
of
the
arm.
arming sword because it's
You
more
can't you can't actually walk around outside with a sword at your hip. And
Oh, I
you
know.
might get funny looks. You might even get stopped by the cops. And like, what the hell are
Actually,
you doing?
you
But it's
can't
not
do
illegal.
that. You can't do that in this state.
There are a
you
lot
can.
of states
4-inch
that have
blade.
limited length.
4-inch
Yeah.
blade, John.
No,
Four-inch
no. That's
blade,
for
four-inch
concealed.
That's even carrying. If you're carrying,
Yeah.
nothing over
I
4-inch
don't know.
blade.
We'd have to-
I already,
we'd have to look
it up.
I already
Yeah.
checked because I have
Yeah,
all these.
it's a weird fucking set of laws. I don't like it either. Because the thing is, I see blades as arms. The problem is, no one fights it because what's the use of
They're not
carrying a
used,
sword these
yeah.
days? Exactly. It's one of those things that unfortunately society is ignoring them.
Well, they were, but now I guess they're going to start coming into the mainstream as more people start using those, so they don't have to use guns and cause all this gun issue. The knives.
Plot twist,
knives
gun
and
sword.
Right, gun sword. I want to see it. When's it going to happen?
Oh
Right.
god,
They're
they've
real.
existed in the past, and
Yeah,
there were only a handful that were okay. Most of them were more memes.
yeah.
Yeah, I know. No, it just doesn't make any sense. Bullet does much better. All right, so let's get the hell out of here, John. Why don't you tell these nice folks out there where they can find us, please?
Yes. You can find us in the description down below. We have a whole bunch of links down there. So while you're scrolling down there, you can hit that like and that subscribe button if you haven't already. And once you get past that, we've got our Twitter down there, which is at the GenGapP. We've got our Discord server link, which will be a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. You can ask Sewell; he'll tell you.
That's where we dig up these fucking people. God.
Yeah. And then we've also got our link to freedomscoop.com. You can find a bunch of other creators like Stephen Ignoramus or Jay Edgar. And Wyatt, I believe, does stuff on there too from Roundtable Decision. While you're there, you can also pick up one of our shirts, which I believe we were both wearing tonight.
Don't limit
which
yourself.
we didn't plan.
Don't limit yourself
didn't
to
find
one,
that.
folks. You don't have to limit
To
yourself.
be
to one,
honest,
no
I
matter what
probably got the coolest symbol here.
No, sir.
Oh yeah, the Keck flag.
No,
I
sir.
got the actual flag though, the actual 5x5
No,
I
sir.
got the actual flag though, the actual 5x5
No, sir.
flag.
This is the
Well, my
coolest thing.
3x5's over there. My
3x5. You're right. Yeah, 3x5.
3x5 at Victorian Brothers at Victoria.
But yeah, so we also got a promo code down there. Chin Gap will give you 15% off of the shirt. So that's
Shirts.
pretty awesome.
Shirts.
You should do that. Shirts. The
15%.
more
Because
shirts.
you want your whole family in the shirts
That's right.
to show the
Yeah.
generational gap
Repping
that
the
you're all
Gen
on
Gap.
board, right?
That's right.
You know what? I might buy a couple of shirts for next Christmas for my family, but they won't know the joke.
You don't have to wait till then, and there's no
Right.
joke.
God, they make great Valentine's gifts.
Right.
And President's Day
Great.
gifts, folks. So
And-
keep it in mind.
You know, St. Patrick's Day is coming up soon too.
Right.
You know, after that, so there's
Do you
lots
have
of
a green
reasons to
shirt?
buy them.
January 11th is coming up.
I don't know.
January
have a green
11th
shirt.
is just a day away. You want to get
That's
your...
true.
Yeah.
Got to celebrate, right? You know.
All right, so we're going to get the hell out of here. Remember, we are going to be back again this coming Monday for our regular 9 o'clock Shooting the Shit show. We'll also be
Yep.
back next Friday for our regular great stream like we had tonight. Let's give mad props to Seawall showing up to talk Iran, to talk Virginia, to talk a bunch of fucking smack. Seawall, you ignorant slut. Thank you for coming to us tonight. Everything froze. The hell?
On the stream, it froze. I'll do progressive maintenance.
All I see is a fucking hammer, and like everything froze, and I'm like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And now everything's
It
back.
was fun.
Did it freeze on the stream too?
Yeah, it did.
Wow, that's crazy talk. It's got to be something to do with Seawall. Did
Goddamn it, Seawall.
it catch my Seawall, you ignorant slut comment? That's important.
I don't know. I don't have the sound on.
It's probably Discord
I think
fucking with us.
I think it froze completely on the screen.
OBS more than likely. It's an imperfect machine. I've played with it enough. to
Yeah,
know
I
that.
can guarantee you, based off what I'm seeing, it's Discord. It's Discord that's doing it to us because everybody's
True.
choppy
So
on,
then let's-
on our Discord. All right, so Seawall, thank you very much for coming and talking shit with us tonight. It was good to have you around. I'm always glad to hear what you have to say.
As
although
always.
I don't buy into most of it because you're just, you hide
Just a
yourself.
big silly goose, you know.
hide yourself, so I can't believe you. I can't trust you because there's no transparency. But no, really, thank you for coming by. It was great to have you here. And outside of that, you got any final words you want to leave us? Any final words of wisdom, Seawall?
The launch codes are 47Baker592.
No one uses Baker anymore. That's old shit.
I do because I can't make a fucking cake to save my life. All right, we're going to get the hell out of here. Folks, thanks for stopping by. Whether you're new or old, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit all those things that make us happy, and we will look forward to seeing you next time on the Generational Gap. Peace out, folks. Have a great night.
Yep. See you guys.